transmission line exactly. So basically we saw it's a two conductor system. So there is an inner conductor and there is an outer conductor. In case of coaxial line, in case of two wire line, the two conductors are parallel. In case of parallel plate capacitor, so basically the two conductors are parallel to each other. And in case of microstrip, there is a cutting strip, and ground plane is also basically two conductors. One is in the ground plane is bottom and above is format. So this is our basic structure. So there are two conductors, they are separated by a dielectric. Fine. So in general we say this is a coplanar waveguide. So there are different metal strips and below there is a metal ground plane and they are separated by a dielectric material. Yeah. So in general basically what is transmission line? It's a two conductor system separated by a dielectric, right? So basically they are separated by a dielectric. So this is one conductor AB, another conductor is A dash B dash, and they are separated by a dielectric. That's what we saw last time, right? And we also like discussed how, like in this case, so there is a source end. So this is the generator end, which is also called the source, right? There is a source end and there is a load end, and this is the medium through which the electromagnetic wave will travel. So obviously, if this is a source, there will be a source impedance, and this is the load impedance. So this is a general representation of a transmission line system. Basically, it's a two conductor system. Okay. Okay. So these are the few examples which we saw last time, like our coaxial cable. Okay, our coaxial cable is there, and so this is the like coaxial cable where you have a inner conductor. So this is your inner conductor, and there is outer conductor layer also, and there is a plastic shielding. Okay, so like what we, I mean, in our higher semester, what you will see is this is a transmission line. This conductor which you are seeing is a transmission line, and this is the dielectric material. Okay, which Vinit sir was also explaining about the relative permittivity. Okay, epsilon r, like, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah, fine. So as Vinit sir was also explaining about this materials, I mean the epsilon r, the relative permittivity. So generally what we use is we use FR4. Okay, this is the material which we use. Basically, it's a fiber resin which has a relative permittivity of nearly 4. So this is a fiber resin material, the dielectric material, and which has a nearly relative permittivity of 4. That is why we call this substrate as a FR4 substrate. And yeah, and then we saw last time what is called transit time effect, right? So this is a two conductor system, and we saw like how if the, so what is transit time? Can anyone tell me? Anyone? Chetan? Chetan Prajapati? You were present last time?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what is transit time?
Sir, I think the time required.
For what?
I'm taken to travel,
Ajit,
sir.
travel.
Time taken to travel from where to where?
Along the
From
Generator to load,
source
sir.
to load.
Yes.
Load.
So basically along the transmission line, right? So this is what is transit time, and we saw how transit time is basically what. So if L is the length of the line, if L is the length of the line, and we saw transit time is what, L by V, or we can say Vp, where Vp is what? It is velocity of propagation, right? Vp is what? Velocity of propagation of EM wave, right? Remember?
Yes, sir.
And what is the upper bound for this velocity? So the EM wave can travel maximum at what speed?
3 into 10 raised to 8.
Yeah, so the upper bound is C basically, right? So Vp is basically what? It is less than or equals to C, है ना? So and like Vinit sir also explained you the basic idea of permittivity and permeability, and from your earlier basic physics you must have like seen this equation. Vp is 1 upon mu into epsilon, right? Anyone remember this or no? Tell me. You can reply, I mean, quickly so that you don't waste time. Okay, so this is what is the basic formula for the propagating wave. This is the velocity of propagating wave, and you know epsilon and mu. These are what? These are permittivity, right? These are what? Permittivity and permeability, right? Permittivity and permeability, and also like sir was explaining you like this is what epsilon naught into epsilon r, and this is mu naught into mu r, right? So what is epsilon naught? And just now sir explained
Relative permeability space.
Vanshaj, permeability of free space. How much is that?
8.856 into 10 to the power minus 19.
10 power 10 power how much?
Minus 12.
Minus 2. Fine. And what is mu naught?
4 into
4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7, right? 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7. And what is epsilon r and mu r?
relative permeability and relative. So relative permeability and relative permittivity.
Okay. So how does it vary? Like, I mean, depending on what it will vary.
Sir, material.
Material, right? Right. We'll study that. We'll study that in detail in the, I think in module 3 and module 2 and module 3 we have these things in detail. During that also we will study this in detail, basically the permeability and the permittivity. These are there in the module 2 and module 3, right? So we'll study there, but I mean just for introduction I am just giving you brief, like so this depends on the material, right? And normally mu r is near to 1 always. Okay, it is always near to 1, but the epsilon r is like it has a wide range. Epsilon r has a very wide range, so I mean it can be in terms of thousands also. Beginning from 1, it can be, so epsilon r can be from 1 to greater than multiple thousands. Okay, so it can be in thousands. So epsilon r has a very dynamic range, I mean very wide range, but mu r is normally near to 1, like no, most of the cases. Okay, so yeah, so transit time effect, like can anyone tell me what was the what is transit time effect we discussed last time? Prathamesh Mistry. Last time we discussed in detail, right? Transit time effect. Harneet Kaur, do you remember transit time effect? Hello, am I audible?
Sir, you're audible.
Okay. Tell me.
Sir, I don't remember like perfectly what exactly.
Okay, I mean, what do you remember? Like, what do you?
Sir, it is. So like when. Sir, I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, fine. Jai, do you remember?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, do you remember transit time effect we discussed last time?
No, sir.
Okay. Sumiran,
Yes, yes, sir.
do you remember transit time effect?
No, sir. I just know that maybe transient time is when like the time taken by a system to change
Yeah,
from
that is
one
transit
steady.
time. But what
Yes,
is
sir.
the transit time effect?
No, sir. That I don't remember.
Okay, okay, fine. Okay, I think I will have to revise in a brief. Like we can give 5 minutes again because that's a very important concept. So transit time effect is what basically. So this is your transit time. Fine. So when your transit time is very much less than the time period of the wave. Okay. Your transit time, so the wave which is propagating along this line, okay, if your transit time is very much less than the time period, then we don't consider this time transit time effect. Okay, so we don't consider the transit time effect. But when the transit time, okay, someone has replied, Sonia Kadam, in low frequency transit time is negligible and in high frequency transit time effect is considered. Right, Sonia. Sonia Kadam is right. So, like just for others, we'll quickly, revise. So what happens is this is your transit time. Okay, what is transit time? The time taken by the wave, the EM wave which is traveling. So the EM wave is traveling. Okay, along this line, it takes some time. Fine, it takes some finite time, right? So it's not like the whatever voltage you give at this end, instantly it reaches at this. Does it happen? No, right? So it takes some time. So because of the time, the transit time effect comes into picture. So there is a potential drop. When is the drop? When we go to high frequency. At low frequency, we don't consider the length, right? See, till now in your, till now in your previous semesters, you must have never come across the concept of length of the conductor, right? It doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, it matters in terms of resistance, but like, sorry, not exactly uh, as much it matters in high frequency. Okay. So when your transit time, the time taken by the wave travel along the line is very much less than the time period of the wave. Okay. So I hope you all know what is the time. How do you calculate the time period of the wave, right? So basically, it is the time of one single cycle of the wave, right? So if the transit time is very much less than the time period, we don't consider the transit time effect. Why? Because we'll see. So what is transit time? Because basically it is L by Vp, right? So it is L by Vp. So it is very much less than the time period of the wave. So our L is very much less than the T. What is T basically? Sorry. T is what? Basically 1 by F, right? Frequency of the wave. And Vp goes here. So Vp by F. And we know what is Vp by F? It is what? Lambda. That means if our length is very much less than the wavelength of the wave. So you can remember this. Okay, this is the essence. If your length of that line, if the length of the line is very much less than the lambda, which is the wavelength of the EM wave, the length of the wave, okay, this is lambda. If your L is very much less than the lambda, which is the length of the wave, one cycle length, then we don't consider transit time effect, and that is what we do in your network theory and basic circuit theory, right? But what happens is at high frequency, okay, at high frequency, that means as frequency increases, what happens? As frequency increases, the wavelength will reduce, right? The wavelength will reduce. So the lambda reduces. When the lambda reduces, it becomes comparable to the length of the transmission line. When the frequency increases, so that the length of the line, the transmission line, becomes comparable with that of the wavelength of the wave. Like suppose if this is your line, this much length, and your wave is like this, it is traveling like this, suppose. That means the wavelength of the wave is comparable with lambda, right? But if your wave is like this, suppose, it's like very high wave, very large wavelength, so your transit time is negligible in that case, right? But if your wave is very small as compared to, or basically it is comparable to the length of the line, then the effect of transit time comes into picture. And because of the transit time, what we cannot do is we cannot apply your KCL KVL, the basic circuit analysis tool which you use to analyze any circuit, which is KCL KVL. You cannot do that. Why? Because the primary assumption of applying KCL and KVL is what? It is that your circuit, what is the primary assumption of applying KCL KVL? That your circuit is made up of lumped elements. Your circuit is made up of lumped elements. Now, what is lumped elements? Lumped elements means what? Basically, it is your R, your L, your C, your transformer and all. Like the physical resistor, the physical inductor, the physical capacitor. Till now, what you have designed in your breadboard, in your PCB, so those components R, L, and C. So if the components are lumped, then only you can apply KCL KVL. But what happens is, because of the transit time effect, the length becomes comparable to that of the wavelength. Then you cannot apply KCL KVL. Then you cannot apply KCL KVL. So what then? How we will be analyzing the circuit then? We know only this tool KCL KVL till now, right? To analyze any circuit, what we do? We apply KCL, we apply KVL. But suddenly what is happening at high frequency? The length of the line becomes comparable to wavelength, and because of this, the transit time effect, this lumped element model fails. Okay, and we cannot apply KCL KVL. So what we need to do? Okay, what we need to do is we need to. So if this is your line, suppose this is your line, what we do is, acha. So till now what we have seen is your lumped circuit analysis, what you have already done. Just a second. Okay, clean the slide. Okay, fine. Yeah.
So now you can continue.
Yeah, fine. So what I was saying is, like, till now what you have seen is your, if the length of the transmission, this is your length, fine, this is your length of the transmission line, and if your wavelength of the wave becomes comparable, like L is comparable to lambda, then the transit time effect comes into picture. Fine. But now assume, so forget transit time effect as of now. Just assume this is a conductor. Okay, assume this is a ideal conductor. Okay, assume this is a ideal conductor. Now whatever voltage I give here, whatever voltage I give, will I get the same thing here at the load?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right? Because it's ideal conductor, fine. है ना? Whatever voltage I give, I should get the same voltage here. There should not be any drop, right? Everyone agrees? Everyone agrees with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now, like, there is nothing called as ideal conductor, right? So it's just it's a state, but it doesn't exist really. So what happens is, now our case, like Vinit sir always starts with high frequency analysis, right? Why? Because we are analyzing at high frequency. Why? The motivation he has already cleared, because the bandwidth available at high frequencies is very large, right? So we are going for high frequency because we need larger bandwidth, that which gives larger data rate, right? Now when we go for high frequency, what happens suddenly? Okay, even if it's an ideal conductor, suppose, even if it's an ideal conductor, so the resistance may be zero. The resistance may be zero. But at high frequency, what happens is, okay, at high frequency, what happens is the reactance, okay, even though the resistance is zero, but the reactance. Everyone understand what is reactance? Anyone? I mean, in your first year, you must be studying, right? BEE basic,
Yes, sir.
like basic circuit theory. In that you must be analyzing the reactance, right?
Yes,
So basically that
Excel.
Excel, XC.
XL XC, fine, right? XL and XC. What is XL?
Reactance due to inductors. Sir.
Yes. So basically it is inductive reactance, right? Inductive, and this is what? XC is what? Capacitive reactance. So what happens is, even if we consider an ideal conductor, okay, in which R may be 0, but then at high frequency, what happens is the reactance dominates. The reactance dominates, and so there will be some loss. There will be some loss. So we know, like if so, if there is a current flowing, what will happen? There will be a magnetic field, right? Hai. So basic physics you must know, like if a current is flowing through a wire, there will be a magnetic field, right, along the wire.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hai. And so like that is where the inductance comes into picture. Okay. So the magnetic flux linked with the coil, okay, just a second. The magnetic flux linked with the coil gives the inductance. Okay. So L comes into picture. Why? Because of the magnetic flux. Okay. Which is linked with the current. And obviously the two conductors are separated by some dielectric. Okay. They are separated by a dielectric. So the dielectric is also not ideal. See, nothing is ideal, right? So the conductors are not ideal. Okay. If the conductors are not ideal, there will be some R resistance, right? And because of the current flowing through the conductor, there is a magnetic flux which is linked with the current, and that will give us the inductance value of the conductor system, right? And the material, the two conductors are separated by a certain dielectric. So it may be air or it may be any dielectric material. So if the two conductors are separated by a dielectric, that dielectric is also not ideal. So it will have some capacitance. Why? Because the two conductors are, so in your basic physics you must be studying, if there are two conductors, if that is separated by a dielectric, there is what? Capacitance comes into picture, right? Hai. Everyone understand this?
Yes, sir.
Two conductor system separated by a dielectric material, there will be capacitance. So the capacitance comes into picture, right? And obviously the material, the dielectric material, this material is not ideal, so it will also have some conductance. Okay. So basically this four parameters comes into picture. R, L, G, C. Resistance, why? Because the conductor is not ideal. Inductance, why? Because the current is flowing. So the magnetic flux linked with the current conductor, the current carrying conductor will have inductive effect that will give rise to L. And the dielectric material, which is not ideal, so it will also, basically there will be some leakage current. There will be some leakage current between the two conductor, because this is not ideal, right? Ideal dielectric. So there will be some leakage current allowed. Because of that, there will be some conductance. And obviously, if the two conductors are separated by a dielectric, there will be capacitance between the two conductors. So this four parameters, R, L, G, C, comes into picture. Is that clear to everyone? Is it clear to everyone how this parameters comes into picture?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So basically, this transmission line will have four things. Okay. So this transmission line will have four things, right? It will have R, it will have L, it will have G, and it will have C. But then, where are they? Okay, this is just a two conductor, fine. This is just a two parallel conductor. So we have R, we have L, we have G, and we have C. But where are they? Okay, that is the question, right? In your circuit analysis, so if you make a circuit, you put your resistor, you put your inductor, and then you put your capacitor, right? So you can physically see that. Okay, and that is why they are called lumped circuit. That is why they are called lumped circuit. These are lumps. These are lumps, right? Which you can see. But in case of transmission line, what happens is these components are there. These components are there, but you cannot see them, right? You can see only two conductors. So what we do is, how do we model it? So we model it using something called as distributed. So these are your lumped circuit, and these are called lumped components. R, L, C, which you can see in your circuit in your PCB, are called lumped components. And this R, L, G, and C, which you cannot see but they are there in the conductor, that is called distributed component or distributed circuit. This transmission line will be called as distributed circuit. It will not be lumped, it will be distributed circuit. Fine. So till now it's clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So they are all distributed. Distributed means what? We'll see. Distributed means what? Basically, so there is R here, okay, there is L here, okay, and there is again R, there is again L, there is R here, there is again L, okay, and there is C here, okay, there is conductance here, there is C here, there is conductance here, there is C here. Means they are all distributed. We don't know exactly where they are, okay, we don't know exactly where they are, but they are all there in the circuit. I mean in the line, okay, they are all distributed. So you cannot specify like that the capacitor is here or the inductor is here. No, okay. So they are all distributed, okay. So but then how do we analyze them? Okay. So if they are all distributed, we know we can do circuit analysis only if we have a circuit, right? Only if we have a, I mean, defined circuit. We should know where is the inductor, where is the capacitor, where is the resistor, right? But then for this, how will you analyze like if they are all distributed? So what we do is we do something called as so the condition is, when can we do circuit analysis? Okay, so this is a distributed circuit, so we cannot do circuit analysis for this, but then we need to do circuit analysis, right? We need to do analyze and we need to get the voltages and current, right? That is our purpose. So our purpose of analysis is what? We need to get the voltage and current, right? So for that we need lumped circuit, but then this is a distributed circuit. So what we do is we do certain assumption. We do certain assumption, okay. We do certain assumption, and because of that assumption, we can do circuit analysis. Because of that assumption, we can do circuit analysis. So what is that assumption? So even though it's a distributed circuit, okay, we will make it a lumped circuit. Okay, so how can we make it a lumped circuit? So what we assume is, so just now we saw what we saw, that if the length becomes comparable to the wavelength, our transit time comes into picture, and because of the transit time there is a potential drop, okay, and the whole distributed circuit comes into picture, and we cannot apply lumped circuit analysis. But then what I can do is, even though the lambda may be very small, okay, what I can do is I can make length to be very smaller than lambda again. Okay, what I will assume, so this is our assumption. What we will assume, that our length is very much small than lambda, even though the lambda is very small at high frequency, even though the lambda is very small, but what we assume is the length of the line is very much less than lambda. Now is it possible? No, right? We cannot make such small length, enough. So what we do is we do something called as, we divide the line into each subsection. We divide the line into each subsection. Okay, so this is one subsection, this is another subsection, this is another subsection, this is another subsection. And what is our assumption is, the length of this subsection is tending to 0. The length of this subsection is tending to 0. So if the length of the subsection, this delta Z, if this is your delta Z, which is tending to 0, so however small the lambda may be, okay, however large the frequency may be, or however small the lambda may be, our length of the line, is very small. It is tending to 0, right? It is tending to 0. So that means at any arbitrary high frequency, at any arbitrary means any random high frequency, whatever may be the high frequency, okay, our lambda may be smaller, fine, but the length of the line, what we assume is it is tending to 0. So that means if the length of the line will always be smaller than the lambda, right? Everyone understand? Is
Yes.
understanding?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is our assumption. So our assumption is we are breaking the line into small length, okay, and we assume this to be an individual circuit. We assume this to be an individual circuit where we can apply KCL KVL. Why? Because the length, this delta z will always be smaller than lambda, right? For any high frequency, this condition will always satisfy, right? Because it is approaching 0, right? Everyone is getting this?
Yes.
Is the assumption clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So that means if we assume the length of the section to be tending to 0, we can apply KCL KVL, and now we are relieved. So we know how to apply KCL KVL, right? So I mean, we are entering into an easy domain where, because see, one approach is using KCL KVL, another approach is using Maxwell equation, right? So that approach is a bit difficult. Why? Because maybe for direct second year or maybe for like regular students also, using Maxwell equation to derive voltages and current is a bit difficult. So in your UG studies, what we do is we use circuit theory with this assumption. And there is another approach where we use Maxwell equations to derive the voltage and current equation. Okay. So that is the another approach, but we don't go for that. Okay. So that means, so the assumption is clear. Okay. So the assumption is clear that we divide these two conductors, I mean the length of the conductor, into each small subsection, and we assume this length of the subsection is tending to 0. That means we can analyze this subsection by using KCL, and KVL. We can analyze this, and this is valid for any f, for any high frequency. This is valid, right? Why? Because we have assumed like that, right? Delta z is approaching 0. Now you must be thinking, so if there is a magnetic field, if there is a capacitance here, so how do we model? So what we do is, so if this is our component, okay, if this is our delta z, okay, if this is our delta z subsection, so we can put our resistor here, okay, we can put our inductor here. I mean, it's distributed, it's not like exactly the resistor is here. We can have capacitance here, we can have inductance here. Okay, so this is G, this is L, R, C. Or we can have different models also. Like we can have capacitance and inductance together, capacitance and conductance together, G and C, or maybe we can have R and L together. This is also one model. Why? Because we can have any possibility, right? Because they are all distributed, है? So in some books you may see that they show like this. In some books they may show like this, and in some books what they may do is R, L, R, L. So instead of putting this C, G, R, and L, they may put R by 2, L by 2, R by 2, L by 2, or here they may put C by 2, G by 2, okay, and C by 2 and G by 2. So there are any possibilities, okay, because they are all distributed. So our circuit, our this subsection can be assumed in any of the given pattern, okay. So in any of the pattern you can assume. So what in general we assume is, we assume like this, okay. So this is the pattern we assume for our analysis, okay. I mean, this is the most commonly used pattern. So what we assume is R delta Z, L delta Z, G delta. Now you may be assuming, you may be thinking, why this delta Z comes into picture? Can anyone tell me? So this is for this subsection, this is for this subsection, this is for this subsection. So each subsection is having a different RLGC, 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 RLGC. Fine. Now, because see, in your lumped component, what you do is your R is what? It is absolute. It is absolute. Fine. Because why? Because it is standalone, right? Why? Because it is standalone. It is separate. I mean, it has an individual identity. But the R here is for a length of delta Z. The R here is for a length of delta Z, and that is why we define R. That is why we define R for this subsection, which is called R delta Z, L for this subsection, which is L delta Z, G for this subsection. Are you getting? I mean, this is for each subsection. This is a for one subsection. This is our subsection delta Z. Okay, this much. So this is our model. And this subsection will have this model. I mean, it will go on repeating. Why? Because they are all distributed. So is this fine? Everyone getting how we represent?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that means what we are doing is we are representing the distributed. So this is our distributed circuit. Okay, where the components are distributed. Why? Because anywhere there can be R, there can be L, there can be R. So they are all distributed, and we are modeling. We are modeling that distributed circuit using a lumped equivalent circuit. So what is this? This is a lumped equivalent circuit. Okay, so this is an equivalent circuit. This is not an exact circuit. Okay, so always remember there is a word equivalent. This is not exact. Okay, there cannot be an exact because we don't know where is that, right? So this is an equivalent circuit. So there is a difference between the word equivalent and exact. I hope you understand that, right? So this is basically the model for an distributed circuit, the distributed transmission line. Distributed. So circuit here we mean, what do we mean by circuit here? We mean transmission line, right? So this is an equivalent model. So this is your model. Now, as we have defined the model, next comes the parameters, right? Next comes the parameters of the model. So we have already seen, so there are parameters like R, L, G, and C, which are all distributed. But this R is not for the entire line. R is not for the entire line. R is not for entire line. It is for this subsection. This L is not for the entire line. This is for this subsection. This G is only for this subsection, and this C is only for this subsection. So that means here what we do is we define our R, L, G, and C, okay, per unit length. We define it what? Or per unit length. So that means here length comes into picture. Okay, and that is why I was saying, so when you go to high frequency, okay, in the introduction lecture I emphasized, when you go to high frequency, the length, or basically the general term which is called space comes into picture. Okay, in your low frequency analysis you must be never countering this word space, but in high frequency the length, which is the space of the space, comes into picture. Basically the length of the circuit, the length of the line, okay, that comes into picture. Okay, so fine. Now, so this is how, this is how they are all distributed along the line. Okay, so R, L, they are distributed. G, C, they are all distributed. So this is basically the equivalent lumped model. Okay, so now we have made an equivalent lumped model. Now if we have lumped model, so what we know? We know we can use KCL and KVL, right? Kirchhoff's law we can use and we can analyze the circuit. Okay. So the R here is basically what? So it is the combined resistance of both the conductors, but this word is very important, per unit length. Per unit length. Per unit length. All the constants, the R, the L, G, and C, they are all defined, but defined for per unit length, not for the entire line. Fine. That is the difference between the lumped component and distributed component. Fine. So R we know it is ohm, unit is ohm per meter. Similarly, length L, basically the inductance. Inductance, the unit is Henry, Henry per meter. G, which is the conductance. Okay, the unit is S, the Siemens, or some authors may use mho. Like the reciprocal of ohm is the mho per meter, and the capacitance, obviously we know it is farad per meter. So all the components R, L, G, C, they are defined for per unit length. Okay, so this is where we begin our distributed circuit analysis, and we have already modeled the equivalent lumped circuit for the distributed circuit. Now we can start with the analysis. Okay, I think we can continue till so we have time. Is everyone getting what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just like, I mean, you can give your feedback in between also, sir. We are yes or no, whatever. Okay, fine. So what we'll do is we'll pick a subsection. We'll pick a subsection and we will try to analyze. Okay. So I hope this is not boring. I mean, like for students, because this is a different theory. So I'm trying my best to make it interesting. So fine. So we have picked the subsection delta Z. So this is the model we have assumed. Okay. Now we can apply our circuit analysis. So suppose if I give a voltage V of Z here, and the voltage here is, so because this is delta Z length, so our voltage here will be V of Z plus delta Z. Fine. There will be some difference. And if this is I of Z, okay, this will be I of Z plus delta Z. Okay, so here, as I said, the space, the length comes into picture. So basically your voltage and current are function of length. Okay, in your circuit theory, voltages and current were only function of time, right? V of t, I of t, you must have studied for your RLC circuit and all. But here there is a one more parameter called space, the Z. Okay, why Z? So what we assume is basically the wave, the transverse electromagnetic wave is traveling in Z direction. It is traveling in Z direction. So we assume in X direction there is an electric field. Okay, in X direction. Okay, so this is your X. In Y direction we assume there is a magnetic field. Okay, there is a magnetic field in Y direction, and the wave is traveling in Z direction. So because of that assumption, we put always Z, the direction of the wave. Okay, the direction of the wave, traveling wave, and that is why I use Z. Fine. So our wave is traveling, and so the voltage here is V of Z, and after subsection length of subsection delta Z, the voltage will be V of Z plus delta Z. Here the current is I of Z, and after subsection delta Z, current will be I of Z plus delta Z. Fine. So this is clear to everyone? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine. Now we can use KCL, KVL. Okay. So can anyone help me in applying KCL to this circuit or KVL? We will first apply KVL. Fine. KVL. Can anyone help me? Should I call out the names? Vignesh, can you help me in applying KVL to this circuit?
Yes, sir.
Like, can we apply, I mean, can you help me in applying KVL? Sakshi?
Yes, sir.
What we should write?
I R delta Z.
Okay. So we begin from this point. Okay, fine. I of Z into R delta Z. Fine.
I of plus.
Plus.
Yes.
Okay. So you are assuming this to be plus. Okay.
In series. Okay. I of Z L delta Z.
Fine. Meghna?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What should be the next step? So she started from here.
Yes,
From
sir.
here and she applied. So she assumed the direction. But still fine. For others who don't understand, I will explain how do you apply KVL. So in KVL, we account the voltages, the potential drops. Okay, the potential drops we account. So if we begin from here, suppose as she started from here, Swati, I think. So she started from here and she went in the direction of current and she assumed this to be positive. Okay, fine, we can assume the direction of current, the drop across the direction of current, we are assuming it to be positive. So what is the potential here? What is the potential here? The potential here is this, right? The potential here is how much? Here it is V of Z. Here it is how much? V of Z plus delta Z, right? Everyone getting this?
Yes, sir.
The potential here is what? How much? V of Z, and here it is V of Z plus delta Z. Fine. So if we apply KVL, what do we do? So from V of Z, we are going. So if I assume, or in general, basically what we can say is if the potential here is V of Z, and here it is V of Z plus delta Z, and this is the drop, right? The drop is across this. So what I can say? I can say that V of Z minus V of Z plus delta Z is what? The potential difference is how much? I of Z into R delta Z, right? Plus what? So this is what basically the impedance, right? What is the impedance of this? R delta Z impedance is R delta Z, fine. But for inductor, what is the impedance? For inductor, what is the impedance? J omega L, right? Is everyone getting this? The potential drop from here to here is how much? I of Z into R delta Z plus J omega L delta Z, right? Is it not clear? No one is replying. See, I think I should repeat. Here the potential is V of Z. Here the potential is V of Z plus delta Z. Okay. And if the current is I of Z. Okay. So what will be the, if I apply KVL, what I will get? The potential drop, right? The potential drop or delta V, I can say the potential drop delta V is how much? It is what? I of Z into R delta Z plus J omega L delta Z. Is everyone getting this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Bruda, V13.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. At least keep replying. I mean, I will get to know whether you are. I mean,
Yes, sir.
okay. So this is fine, right? The potential drop delta V. The potential drop is I of z into R delta z plus j omega delta. Fine. Now, if I apply KCL at this node, if I apply KCL at this node, what will I get? Can you tell me? So this current is incoming, right? I can assume it to be positive. This is outgoing, so I can assume it to be negative. So if this is outgoing, suppose this can be negative, so it will be, say, can be g delta z plus j omega c delta z, ठीक है, into I of z, or whatever may be this current, ठीक है, we can assume it to be I1 of z, ठीक है, and here it is I of z plus delta z. So it can be, so it's outgoing, so it is also negative, so it will be I of z plus delta z. This is equals to 0, right? Sum of all current is 0 at the node, right? That means I of z minus I of z plus delta z. What is this? The difference in current, right? The difference in current, and that can be given as what? If I take this term, this minus term, this side, what will I get? I of z into I into g delta z plus j omega c delta z. Now you must be thinking, well, how this term come? So we know, see, I is what? V by z, right? And we know what is 1 by z? It is V into y. And this y is called reciprocal of admittance. Impedance is called admittance. These are all basic circuit nomenclature. I think you may be knowing. Okay. So you get delta I. So basically, what we do is we get two equations. Okay. We get two equations. We get delta V. We get delta I. Okay. And our assumption is what? Delta Z tends to 0. Okay. How much time we have? Okay, so we can finish it in next 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, so we have got two equations. V of z. Here this is V of z plus delta z. This is I of z. Okay. This is I of z plus. And we have got two equations. One is delta V, another is delta I. What was delta V? I into R delta z plus j omega L delta z, and delta I, the difference in current was how much? V into G delta z plus j omega c delta z, right? Now this delta z I can take common, I can divide, so delta V by delta z. What will be this? This will be I into R plus j omega L. Similarly, I can take delta z common from here. So if this is equation 1, 2, this we get 3. So what will be delta I upon delta z? This will be V into G plus j omega c. Equation 4. Fine. Is this clear to everyone? Shantanu? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have got the potential drop for the length delta z, the current difference for the length delta z. Fine. And our assumption was what? Our assumption was delta z was tending to 0. So what we can do is we can apply the limits. We can apply the limit, that limit delta z tending to 0, delta v by delta z. So this side, obviously this will be same, and similarly we can apply limit. Why? Because why we assume this? This is clear, right? Because for any arbitrary high frequency, what we can do? We can apply lumped circuit analysis, right? That is why we assume this, to apply lumped circuit analysis for any arbitrary high frequency. This is our assumption. ठीक है, delta I by delta z, which is what v into g plus j omega c. And we know from basic definition of derivative, right? This is the definition of derivative, right? First principle of derivative you must be knowing. When we apply limit delta z tend to 0, delta v by delta z, what does it give? What does it give? Can anyone tell me? Okay, time is over. Okay, fine. Yeah, so we'll stop. Okay, so time is over. We can stop. So at least, I mean, you must be knowing what does this give, right? This is the definition of derivative, right? So this will give us dv by dz, and this will give us di by dz. Fine, we can continue this next time. So, I mean, how was it? Like, could everyone
Sir.
get it?
Sir, quickly, if you are able to wind up, then you can.
Okay. No, I think we can continue next time. No issue.
Okay.